Hey everyone, it's Warren. Welcome back to my channel. I have finally found some time to film another video for you guys, and today I'm going to be filming my January and February wrap-up. I read 2 books since the beginning of 2019. So much for my New Year's resolutions. But I wanted to share with you my thoughts on these books because I enjoyed each of them a lot, and I felt like it was worth making a wrap-up video for them, so let's get started. The first book that I read this year was The Hobbit by Tolkien, and I loved this book so much. I wasn't sure at first how I was going to feel because it has been literally years since I last read this book. I wasn't sure if it was going to hold my interest this time or if I might DNF it, but I have to say, I think after finishing this, I love this book even more now as an adult than the last time I read it when I was like 16. I love Bilbo Baggins and the dwarves and Gandalf, and just knowing that Tolkien wrote this book inspired by Germanic mythology just makes it feel so much more personal to me. There's just so many references to mythology in this book, like all of the names of the dwarves and the symbols that the dwarves used on the map to find the secret entrance to the mountain is actually written in the Germanic runes called the Futhark, so that's really cool. I don't know if you can see this very well, but they're on the cover of the book. I just really like how all of these stories just are inspired by mythology and have like an actual source and inspiration to them. There's also some inspiration from Beowulf in here about fighting the dragons, and I just fell in love with this book. I love the journey that Bilbo goes on across Middle-earth, but also like within himself, and how the book is all about finding his courage and seeking out adventure. I really love those themes, and some of my favorite moments from the book are when Bilbo plays the game of riddles with Gollum down in the caves, and also when he has to confront Smaug under the mountain. I think those are two just brilliant scenes that really show how clever Bilbo is and how he is actually a courageous hobbit when he has to be. Dwarves have always been something that has fascinated me, and they're probably like my favorite race from Middle-earth. They are the builders, and they have their own set of magic, and they live in the mountains, and the mountains are beautiful. I wish I could live in the Misty Mountains because that's probably my favorite place in the entire realm of Middle-earth, aside from maybe the Shire. This book was definitely far better than the 3 movie installments, which I think that just kind of goes without saying nowadays. The book is always better. I think that the movies just added stuff unnecessarily, and this book is just a simple, fun fantasy adventure where you have characters that are established and they grow along the way, and I really love that about this story. And of course, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and I can't wait to just continue reading all of Tolkien's series and just enjoying this amazing world. It was surprisingly easier to read than I thought because when I was growing up reading these books, Tolkien just always seemed like such a hard and difficult author to read because his fantasy worlds are just so complex and they have so much happening and going on, and there's just all these different cultures, and he makes a good effort to tell you about all of these things. So there's so much descriptive writing in here, and there's so much just of narration of things happening. So I always had a hard time reading these as a kid, but now that I have really grown into, I guess, like my reading tastes, this is really not that hard to read at all. It was a great fantasy book, and if you actually had the time, you could probably read this in probably 1 or 2 sittings at the most, unlike me. So I found the narration and the descriptions a lot easier to read and get through this time around, and Tolkien really isn't that difficult of a writer. After all, I think it was just my reading maturity levels hadn't really developed yet, so that's why I was having a hard time with it. But now, I freaking love this book. And the next book I read, actually the only book I read in February, was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I actually listened to the audiobook, and this was a reread for me because I tried reading this book last year, if you guys remember, if you've been following me, and I didn't really like it very much. I kind of DNF'd it near the end, but I actually enjoyed it a lot more the second time around now that I've listened to it. I think maybe it was just listening to the audiobook is what helped me enjoy it more. I don't really know. Sometimes there's just books that sound better when they're narrated versus when you're actually reading them, but this was definitely one of them, and I really like the world building in this story. I think the land of Fairy is so interesting and so magical and mystical. It sounds like a place that I would really want to visit, and I also think I understand the characters more now. The first time I didn't really like the characters. I kind of had expectations for them that were not met, and I think the reason for that is because I didn't understand what the point of these characters are. What I really like about the character of Jude is that she is a morally gray character. She's not your typical classic heroine that just wants to fight for something and be good. She actually is kind of morally gray. She's greedy. She wants power, and so that leads her to start manipulating things within the political sphere for her own gain, pretty much. And I think that's what's really interesting. She's such a morally gray character, and when she starts to, I guess, kind of darken, where she's not your your sweet, innocent character, but she actually begins to grow and gain that power, you start to really see how she understands Carden a little bit better. She doesn't really like him, but she gets along with him a little bit more than she did at the beginning. So that was really interesting to be able to read about gray characters and being introduced to this fairy realm. One of the things that I really liked about this book was Holly Black's take on fairies. In this book, they are a lot more whimsical. They have a more fantastical, almost kind of like a childlike, imaginative feel to them with a dark twist, whereas some of the other fantasy books that I've read that have fairies in them tend to resemble elves from Lord of the Rings a lot more than they do like actual Scottish fairies. So this was a very interesting take on fae and just how they are more whimsical and a little bit more malicious than in other books, and I really enjoyed that. The ending of this book was actually very cool. There was a plot twist at the end that I did not see coming. I thought I saw it coming, and then I was wrong. So it subverted my expectations, and I love it. I'm glad that it actually caught me off guard and that I wasn't about to catch the plot twist, because I always get a little disappointed when I can predict things that happen in books. So I'm kind of happy that I guess I was deceived. So after rereading this book, I still keep my rating on 3 out of 5 stars because this book was definitely great and enjoyable, but it was not the best thing I've ever read. But I am really excited to pick up The Wicked King and just see where this story goes. So those are all the books that I've read in January and February, so pretty much all of 2019 so far. I've also been reading Beowulf as well, but I haven't finished it yet, so I'm going to be counting it in my March wrap-up instead. But yeah, guys, it's been a very busy start to the year, and I've been super focused on trying to pass all of my classes, and I'm thinking about even transferring to another college. So I haven't been filming or reading or participating in the booktube community very much as of late, but I am getting back into it, and it feels really great to be making videos again and to be reading, and I'm hoping that in March I will be reading a lot more. It's almost spring, and spring break is coming up, so hopefully I will be able to read some more and be a little bit more active on my channel, because I don't want this to be another year where I just sort of post sporadically, but I'd love to actually get back into posting videos. Let me know what you've read this year so far, or what you're reading currently at the moment, and post a comment down below. I try to respond to every comment that I get, so I will definitely answer yours. So definitely tell me what you guys have been up to as of late, and I will see you guys real soon in another video. Bye!